I'm Aryeh Schwartz, and welcome to the Winsidr Show, where it's all about the W. The playoffs are here, and it's time to dissect the first round matchups. I'm joined this episode with Eliav Gabay from the Mercury beat reporter down in Phoenix, and we're going to dive into this matchup and see how the Mercury can pull off a dub. If you like our show, please consider joining our Patreon community, patreon.com/Winsidr. That's patreon.com/Winsidr. For less than a cup of coffee a month, you can directly show support for the hard work we do covering the W. And don't forget to see our amazing staff's written content over at winsidr.com. That's winsidr.com. If you're trying to get tickets for the WNBA playoffs, thank you to our sponsors, TickPick. You don't have to worry about any of the fees. They are the original no-fee ticketing site and official ticketing partner of the WNBA champion Chicago Sky. Use the link tickpick.com/Winsidr for all your upcoming ticket purchases for the WNBA, NFL, NBA, or any other event. That's tickpick.com/Winsidr. Tonight, we got a doubleheader of games, and this episode we are focused on the Phoenix Mercury versus the Las Vegas Aces. I'm honored to be joined by Eliav. Eliav, you obviously know the Mercury a lot better than I. Your boots on the ground. You got your ear to the street. You know what's going on with this team. It has been one of the more dramatic team seasons, or I don't even know if that
Wild.
gives it wild, right? Like it is the Wild West down in Arizona this season. Okay, let's start off the episode with Free BG, wrongfully detained in Russia for well over 160 days. I've lost count. One day
Yeah,
is too many.
181 today.
181 today. Thank you for having that number. Add on to the craziness of the season, right? They have a new head coach come in. They have Skylar Diggins-Smith having one of the more ridiculously impressive seasons of her ridiculously impressive career. Diana Taurasi having a resurgence late in her career. They have a few little scuffles on the sideline. They have a few social media posts calling out coaches, or maybe not calling out the coaches, not really clear. Which, side note, I completely blame the Mercury's social media account for that whole clown debacle thing, more than I blame Coach Nygaard. But somehow we are here today. They are in the playoffs, which seemed almost impossible at points, especially considering the fact that Diana Taurasi goes down a couple games ago. Skylar Diggins-Smith has missed portions of the season and is missed the last two games and is expected to miss this series. Also, from my understanding, maybe you can correct me on that. How are we here? How on God's green earth are we sitting here talking about this Phoenix Mercury team without Brittany Griner, without Diana Taurasi, and without Skylar Diggins-Smith in the playoffs? How do we get here?
So it's pretty remarkable, right? You've mentioned everything, and we haven't even mentioned the Tina Charles divorce either. And it's just
I
so
totally
impressive.
forgot about that.
Exactly. That's just how crazy it's been, right? Where to answer your question straight up of how, nothing more than I can say other than straight up teamwork, them getting together and understanding that, listen, no matter what happens, the adjustments need to keep happening, and we have to expect them to happen. That's what Nygaard was saying, where she said something to the tone of, we have basically not been able to count on anything happening at any point in our favor, so this has just been the mentality. So it's Sophie Cunningham stepping up. It's Brianna Turner stepping up. Shea Petty, Diamond DeShields, Megan Gustafson off the bench, Jenny Sims. It's been so impressive to see them go beyond what so many people thought they were capable of. And just straight up communication got better. The defense was sharper. Ball movement was more. Off-ball movement was heightened. I'll tell you what, that small ball revitalized everything. Of course, you don't expect when someone like Tina Charles leaves your team for things to get better, but I'm a kid of a divorced family. The divorce worked for both sides. It's okay. It
Me too.
happens. Yeah, and it did. Tina made the playoffs for the first time in what, 7 seasons for her. That's huge. Of course, if you're in her position, you don't want to risk that again. So I get that. And then for the Mercury, the small ball gave a chance, in my opinion, for Nygaard's system to kind of show through and see through a little bit. I'm not sure she gets quite the credit that she deserves for handling all of this in her rookie season as well as a head coach. But we got to see, listen, those pick and rolls. I mean, Breezy Turner, credit to her. I mean, she's got to be up there for most pick and rolls or most pick and roll partner uh, in the league this year for how many times she had to be involved in that. But yeah, I credit the system and the ability of someone like Skylar Diggins Smith to take so much on herself. And then when she went down and they had to adjust again and DT went down, for the rest of the team to really pick up that slack and a lot of career highs. Let's put it that way this year. A lot of career highs.
I am so speechless with this team. I mean, you brought up the Tina Charles divorce. I know lots of people would love to have a different term for it. Whatever, that's the term. Check the CBA. Take it up with the league. Tina Charles. Tina Charles was on this team. So the Aces swept the Mercury in their regular season series this season 3-0. And all of them were pretty much blowouts. I mean, 20 points for two of them. One of the games was the closest, and it was just a mere 12-point game. But Tina Charles was on the team with the Mercury for all three of those games, which I think is an interesting point. Also, 521, so almost 3 months ago, was the
Right.
last time these teams played. And at that time, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, and I think I'm a big enough person to admit when I'm wrong. I all season doubted the Mercury, said there was no chance. To be fair, part of my doubt was Tina Charles, and when they divorced Tina Charles, the team flourished, I would say. So maybe, my take deserves an asterisk. Um but this team has really pulled it together since these two teams have played, and I wonder in your mind, like, is that an advantage that can be used, or is it just, you know what, it doesn't matter, it's the Phoenix Mercury on, hobbling together whoever they can, and they just need to focus so much more on getting what they can done.
So advantage wise, I feel like it's so hard, not just for the Aces, but for any team to scout this Mercury team because not only have they had to figure it out, the players themselves, when they're on the court, are trying to figure it out at so many different points of the season and have had to adjust at so many different points of the season. When you look at the matchups, it's so different because now you have Brianna Turner, who is, no one can really slow down Asia Wilson, but she's one of the only defenders in the league that can do something against Asia, that can handle what Asia offers, if you will, on the defensive end and on the offensive end. Now, other than that, I'm looking at Sophie Cunningham. We've seen what her moving to the four has done as far as mismatches for all these different teams. And I'm talking about on both sides because she is scrappy down low on defense. She's not just a shooter, people. She gets after it on defense. Then on offense, I mean, she's bringing all these bigs out of the paint and needing to guard her. And that's where you see the Nygaard actions of her pick and rolls. And then you have off ball movement to passes in the corner for threes. Shea Petty, if it's Diamond or Shea or Sophie or whoever you or what have you, they're getting those open threes in the corner. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Aces game plan. Also, when you hear from somebody like Nygaard, where, of course, and I asked her this myself, where, of course, as you mentioned already, you'd rather have Skylar Diggins Smith and Diana Taurasi on the court. But not having them has given all these different weapons a chance to show what they're made of. And we've seen what Diamond DeShields can do. I mean, in the last 4 games, was it, with DT and Skylar out, she's averaged around 17, 5, and 5. Sophie has done her thing all year. It's just really going to be interesting without Hamby. That's the key. With Hamby, it's a whole different series, in my opinion, as far as matchups are concerned. Without Hamby, Stokes and Rupert going up against Sophie or maybe even Sims is going to be interesting, in my opinion. And yes, the disadvantage is, in general, always is going to be with this version of the Mercury is size. but we've seen it work out for them. I'm not sure if we've seen a different team in WNBA history use small ball like this. And this effectively, of course, we've seen different versions, but this small of ball, if you will, and be effective in this way. So it's going to be very interesting. And the guard play, obviously, with the Aces is just unbelievable. But if there is going to be a shot, it's definitely going to be utilizing the mismatches of small ball.
Well, I was gonna say, I mean, first of all, we could do a whole episode, and we'll have to do this after the season's done for the Mercury, where we talk about Nygaard and kind of evaluate the season, because I think that is a fair comment to be made of her not possibly getting the credit that she deserves for what she's done with this team. Obviously, there's a whole aspect of the whole superstars and coaches and do they get along thing. Um,
Mhm, mhm.
but I like your points because with not enough people are talking about the Hamby situation. Obviously, yes, the Aces have found some stride late in the season, even since the Hamby injury, when they've faltered at points. Um, I mean, look, it's no secret. We know what the weakness is for Vegas. It's the lack of their depth, right? It's
Right,
what
right.
happens when the bench comes in. What happens when the starters, have been running for 38 minutes for 2 games straight or whatever it is? Can another team take advantage? And when you look at Phoenix, playing small ball can be an advantage there because if they can keep the speed of this game going, and yes, I know what everyone's response is. Plum and Jackie are just in insane shape and they can play all blah blah blah. Yes, but what you need to understand is playoffs are different. The energy exerted in a playoff game is very different than a regular season game, in my opinion. Obviously, I've never been a pro athlete, so I can't really
Agreed,
speak
agreed.
to that definitively. Um, but I just think, if there is a strength to Phoenix, as you put it, I would say it's their ability to play small ball a way that this league really hasn't seen, and their ability to find success. What do you think the weakness that the Aces are going to try and attack on the Phoenix Mercury end?
I feel like you just have to manage the trapping on defense. We saw that from Chicago. Obviously, Chicago has that size at every position, basically, to switch and to be able to trap at every spot. But that gave Phoenix a whole lot of issues. And maybe the most issues I've seen since the small ball began was those really hard doubles and traps on players like Shea or Sophie or Diamond, and really makes that offense very stagnant, which is not something we see often again from that small ball because they have so much fluidity with the off ball movement, with the backdoor cuts, off the pick and roll, those kind of things. So yes, I would say that, and then on offense, obviously, a lot of people would say this is obvious, but just attacking the paint, making them pay for having that lack of size. That's all you can do. And especially when you have someone like Asia, don't shy away from that. Because once you establish that inside dominance, Kelsey's going to get her threes. Jackie's going to get hers. Like, they're going to get theirs. And then not even say Chelsea Gray. Like, they're going to get theirs. I just think it has to start with establishing that inside dominance and then opening it up.
And I like what you said a few minutes ago about Bree Turner because look, Asia Wilson, MVP candidate, likely is going to walk away with this MVP. Finishing in first place typically bodes well for your ability to take home the hardware of MVP.
Mhm.
But you look at what Turner can do. I mean, you everyone spoke about this on social media. If you're not living under a rock, I think you've seen somebody tweet something in the form of Bree Turner is the most one-sided basketball player in the sense that she is an elite defender for multiple years in this league, going up against some of the best bigs, and being able to switch onto smaller players too. But she is one of the best defenders in the league, and what she has done to kind of keep this defense afloat. I mean, it people can you. All right, I'm gonna say this. Sorry, Phoenix Mercury fans. Often the negative aspect of Diana Taurasi is that you have to hide her on defense because she isn't playing, all that amazing of defense, but she's going to produce offensively. Breezy Turner is such a complete opposite of that, but it's so helpful. It's so useful when you're going up against this Las Vegas Aces team that I'm excited to see just from an X's and O's, just from a gritty, hard nose effort type of viewpoint, I am so excited for this series because if you know one thing about the Mercury, it does not matter what they're placed. It does not matter what the spread is. It does not matter who they're going up against. They are going to give it their all. They are not going to give up at any point. Um, and this is probably the perfect time for me to remind our listeners to join us for our next watch party for the playoffs starting tonight. And we'll probably be doing one for Thursday too, because we love to watch WNBA basketball. The Liberty take on the Sky and the Mercury take on the Aces, respectively, at 8 and 10 p.m. Eastern. The link is getplayback.com/room/Winsidr. That's getplayback.com/room/Winsidr. We'll have lots of discussion on what's going on in game one of the first round of the playoffs. Now let's kind of cut to the chase. All right. What has to happen, in your opinion, for the Phoenix Mercury to not just pull off a single victory, but to move on to the next round and pull off the arguably biggest upset in WNBA playoffs if they win this series?
Man, it's obviously tough, right? Because the Aces present so many challenges. But one of the keys is what you mentioned is going to be trying to run them out of the gym as much as you can, trying to use that transition offense to your favor, hoping that Brianna Turner, who, as far as I have it right now, is going to be on my first team all defense. Um, can she limit Asia enough? Can the guard play be enough against Kelsey, Chelsea, and Jackie? It feels so overwhelming, right? But if you can uh, keep them at bay at least for one game and enough to steal one in Vegas, Aryeh, I'm telling you, no one wants to play in Phoenix. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to play in Phoenix. It is a tough place to play, and everybody knows it. And at that point, you'll have the momentum. You'll have a lot going for you on that end. And we've seen it all year from them. They're 11-7 at home, 4-14 away. So if they can just steal one, utilizing that small ball, utilizing that off ball movement, um, defensively, staying quick, doubling. We saw them do that a lot against Tina too. Tina Charles, for example. And I hate that she's the example I'm bringing up, but one of the main things we saw when the Storm came to visit and Tina started for the first time this season for the Storm was a lot of issues thanks to someone like Breezy Turner. But not only that, the every follow up rebound, you saw like three Mercury there, ready to try and battle for it. So if they can, out grit, if you will, like you saying, like really, really try and run them out and take advantage of the lack of depth, that would be one of the main ways to do it. And then of course the shots need to drop for people like Sophie and Diamond, right? And Shea has become so big. And then Megan Gustafson off the bench has become these all these players have become so much more important that it almost hurts to think about what could have been if they were all actually role players. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, totally. It's pretty mind blowing and crazy. All right. Key players for each team. For me, on Phoenix, it's Diamond and Shields because while we've talked about the lack of star power, the one thing that I don't want anyone to forget is a few years ago, a very commonly spoken name in predictions for MVP while on the Chicago Sky was Diamond to Shields. Diamond to Shields, we all know has the potential to be a generational player. Now, this isn't a knock because as media members, as students of the game, we see players that have the body type, the athleticism, and those sparks, and we go, oh, they have the ability to be that great generational talent. It's a generational talent for a reason, right? It's not like there's like 15 of them knocking down the door.
Right.
But if Diamond can play some of that, if Diamond can show some sparks, some superstar quality generational talent games, compile it together. She's won a championship before. She's been to the playoffs before. She knows what it's like. That's for me, that's going to be the key because as much as, these role players stepping in and filling in bigger shoes, you're going to need somebody to step up to the moment. And hey, maybe it's Sophie Cunningham, but I like to go with, I feel like Sophie's the easy answer. And then for Vegas, it's pretty easy for me. It's Kelsey Plum because Asia Wilson and Turner are going to be battling. Fine. we know that's going down. The question for me comes the guard depth is terms of how much they can last in this series if this series goes long, and also can Plum start showing up on defense? If Plum starts showing up on defense, you have Chelsea Gray, you know, Jackie Young and Kelsey Plum playing elite level defense. We all know what they can do on offense. When you have that, I think it's going to make it near impossible for Phoenix. When you just consider the importance of Sophie, the importance of Diamond and Shea, I think Vegas is going to need to focus on responding defensively and just shutting down Phoenix. Who are your key players? One for each team.
Okay, so I'll pick two different ones, even though I totally agree with your two as well. I just want to put that out there.
Okay,
So, first
I'll
off, to
take
your
the
point about
compliment.
what was that?
I'll take the compliment.
Yeah, there you go. To
Yeah.
your point about Diamond, by the way, she wants it too. That's what you love to see. She wants it. She
hmm
she says this is fun for her to showcase this side of her. Even though she's more than capable of being that role player, we are so aware of what's in her bag, if you will. Now, the two players I'm going to pick, one for Phoenix is going to be Shea Petty. Because of what she does, not only on defense and getting under players' skin, which is exactly what she's going to have to do if they want even a shot with this team, she's gonna have to do what she can to get under the skin of a very tough skin of any of those guards, especially Plum, of course. And not only that, what she does for the ball movement of this team is massive, and what she does for the ball movement of the Mercury in general is you can't say enough about it. Her as that point guard mentality, you can see when she's giving up the ball, she's giving up the ball and then moving. She really is a momentum starter, and when the ball gets energy through movement, a lot of times it's Shea that gets that going. Now for the Aces, I'd say an X factor that people her name comes up a lot, but I just don't know if they realize how good she is when it comes to the national spotlight, and we've seen a little bit of it, especially with Plum giving her flowers, is Chelsea Gray. I mean, how good is she? Not only her passing, her defense, but since these defenses have to worry so much about Aja and Kelsey, and then you got, of course, Jackie, Chelsea seems to be that person on the scout that she's just, she has that third defender or fourth defender, and then they don't have a shot against her because she's so good. So Chelsea is the one that if she gets it going, it's going to be really difficult for any team to be this Aces team this entire playoffs, in my opinion.
Side note, I realized we went through this whole episode. Can you just update Diana Taurasi, Skylar Diggins Smith? There was a release. They're both expected out for the whole series or just the first game. If I misread it, I just want the
So they're
fans to know.
expected for now. They're going to go game at a time. That's the way they do it usually.
Okay.
So they're expected for this next game. I don't want to get any Mercury fans' hopes up that there's a chance that either of them play, or Kia Nurse that either of them play this series. Specifically, DT, of course, with Skylar, it's harder to say. But with DT specifically, she told us a day before Nygaard said that anybody can be available. She told us that she's about halfway through a month recovery. And she said about a couple weeks through a 4-week recovery, essentially. So, and she also said that she would specifically have to push it and she'll do what she can. Obviously, being Diana Taurasi, she will. But, I don't want to say that they should expect them to play in this series. If
Yeah.
it goes to a game 3, maybe back in Phoenix, maybe. But it'll be really tough. It's hard for me to see a possibility of it really happening.
Yeah. No. Hey, but you have to ask. Real quick predictions. Unfortunately for the Mercury fans, I'm gonna have to go Aces in two. What's your thought?
So I'll say Aces in 3, just because I just feel like the Mercury have enough to get one off of them. Um, and then even though that means they're going to lose that one in Phoenix, I just think it might be the Aces year, man. I just think it might be the Aces year. At the end of the day, when it comes down to it, so many times we've seen in the playoffs, it comes down to who has the best player on the court. And now I'm going past the Mercury, but I just don't know there's a good chance the Aces have the best 2 players, maybe 3 players on the court on any given series. So it's just pretty impressive what they've done. So I'll say Aces in 3, but I can definitely see Aces in 2. I just feel like the Mercury have that dog in them where they're going to steal one. And if they do steal one, we'll see. I might eat my words on that Aces in 3, because if the Mercury take it back to Phoenix, that'll be a fun one. And I'm telling you, I'm going to have a smile ear to ear when I'm covering that one.
Oh, that would be a ridiculous one. Well, since you're used to live Phoenix Mercury games and I'm used to watching them on playback, getplayback.com/room/Winsidr, let's just do it one time. Mighty Mercury.
Mighty Mercury. Mighty
Eliav,
Mercury.
Eliav, tell the folks where they can find your writing, your tweets, and anything in between.
Well, the simplest way is at Eliav Gabay on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, everything, even LinkedIn if you're about it, on everything. And also at Sports360AZ or Sports360AZ.com. We have an awesome team, all things Arizona, period, high school, college, professional. And if you're looking for some Mercury stuff, I got you.
I appreciate your time. We'll definitely have you back on to discuss the off season, reflecting back on the season, everything in between. And hey, if they make a deep playoff run, we're definitely bringing you back to discuss more. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate y'all.